Now, in light of what we just discussed regarding Jefferson Davis, we're going to discuss the other side of the coin and give a brief, mind you, very brief overview of the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. There's so much we can't even come close to covering it all. So as you know, Abraham Lincoln was born in Kentucky, and he grew up in Illinois. And of course, he was a rail splitter, and we all know I have the story of him becoming Honest Abe and him becoming a lawyer and him eventually becoming President of the United States. And as he became president, he knew he was going into a very hostile situation. I mean, his stepmother knew when he left the house in Illinois that he wasn't going to be back. She knew that. That's the kind of situation he was going into with all the heat he was going into. And one thing he did, he actually exercised extreme executive office privilege on that, to where he suspended habeas corpus, he suspended due process, he suspended all sorts of privileges for people. Just basically locked up a whole bunch of people who were suspect of being against the government, and just locked them up without trial. So that was a big grievance that some people had against the president, was the fact that he didn't want to have this pebble in his shoe, so he made an executive decision to not have it. And one thing he was also able to do as president, and the executive office did have a great deal of power, unlike the position Jefferson Davis is, where he had to ask permission from the states to do a lot of the stuff he needed to do. President Lincoln was able to actually issue orders and actually get it done that way. That is a reason why his armies were so well supplied. That's a reason why he had so many things. Yes, they were superior in numbers and equipment and things like that. That's one factor. But Lincoln, quite frankly, did not have the shackles on him, figuratively speaking, that Jefferson Davis did. He was in a much better position to make decisions. Now, he had difficulty with his generals. You know, you hear many times of the problems he supposedly had with McClellan. And when it comes down to having studied issues on both sides, there was just a major failure to communicate. A lot of people think McClellan was out to get him when really McClellan wasn't, and so on and so forth. But the lack of communication between the president and his main commanding general, that did create problems with the fact that Lincoln more often than not had no idea what was going on with his own army. Because quite frankly, McClellan refused to play the politics game, which eventually would be his downfall, because he refused to play ball with the politicians. And so what would happen after that was he would have different Union commanders going through him again and again and again. He had McClellan, and then he had Pope, and then he had McClellan again, and then he had Burnside, then he had Hooker, and then he had Meade. And as one Union soldier put it, the latest, if you keep track of them as they go by. And they finally got to a general where he actually had a working relationship with, that was in General Grant. General Grant was a simple man. He kept President Lincoln in the loop, and that made a tremendous difference. Devin, there's a lot more information than the simplistic way I just summed it up, but he kept Lincoln in the loop. He had a better working relationship with him than his predecessors had, and that's a major reason why he had the success as a general he did. He was able to work successfully with the executive office on that. So those are just a tiny handful of the differences between the position of Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln. There you go.